The room was buzzing with energy, filled with hopeful singers waiting for their turn to impress the judges. Bright lights, polished shoes, and rehearsed smiles filled the stage as one contestant after another tried to prove they had what it takes. But when a simple woman stepped forward, the atmosphere shifted. She didn't have the glamorous look of the others, nor the confident swagger that most performers carried. Her clothes were plain. Her hair was neatly tied back, and she walked with the quiet grace of someone used to being overlooked. As she stood on stage, whispers began to ripple through the waiting room. Some of the singers exchanged amused glances. Others couldn't hold back their laughter. To them, she looked like someone completely out of place, someone who would surely crumble the moment she opened her mouth. Even the judges raised their eyebrows, unsure if this woman was prepared for such a competitive audition. But beneath her calm expression, there was a story untold. She wasn't here to impress with appearances or charm the audience with a flashy personality. She carried something far more powerful, something that none of the others could see yet. While laughter filled the background, she closed her eyes for a moment, almost as if she was reaching deep within herself for strength. The room grew quiet when the music started. People leaned in, some waiting to witness a mistake, others ready to laugh again. But what happened next stunned everyone in that audition hall. The first note that came from her lips wasn't ordinary. It was breathtaking, powerful, and filled with raw emotion that no one expected. The same voices that mocked her just moments ago suddenly fell silent, their eyes wide in disbelief, as the woman they dismissed revealed a gift that could not be ignored. For a long moment, the judges simply stared, almost forgetting to take notes. The singers who had laughed at her now sat frozen, their confidence shaken by what they had just heard. But behind that voice was a life that none of them knew. This woman had not grown up in music schools or fancy studios. She didn't have vocal coaches or expensive training sessions. Her stage was her small living room. Her practice came while folding laundry or cooking meals, and her audience had often been nothing more than the four walls around her. Still, music had always been a part of her. It was something she carried in silence, never fully shared with the world because she believed nobody would ever take her seriously. Years of quiet sacrifices, long hours of work, and little recognition had taught her to blend into the background. That was why her presence at the audition surprised so many. She didn't fit the mold of the typical contestant, and that alone made others doubt her before she even began. But what they didn't realize was that this moment wasn't just another audition for her. It was the chance she had been waiting for her entire life. Every late night humming to herself, every song she whispered in secret, had led her to this stage. And though she looked simple on the outside, her voice carried the weight of dreams that refused to die. The judges leaned forward, curious now, as though they could sense there was more to come. The room was silent, yet heavy with anticipation. Each note she sang seemed to peel away the doubts that had surrounded her. Still, the question remained, was her voice powerful enough to carry her through the competition, or would the laughter return once the song ended? As her voice filled the room, the silence was almost too heavy to bear. Some of the other singers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their earlier confidence slowly crumbling. A few stared at the floor, realizing that the woman they had mocked might actually be their biggest competition. One young contestant whispered under her breath, "Where did she come from?" While another clenched his jaw, annoyed that someone so unexpected could steal the spotlight so effortlessly. The judges, though impressed, were careful not to show too much emotion. They had seen talented singers before, but there was something about her delivery that was different. It wasn't just technical skill, it was the way each note carried emotion, as if every word she sang was drawn from lived experience. One judge scribbled quickly on her paper, her eyes never leaving the stage, while another leaned back, arms crossed, hiding a look of curiosity. Meanwhile, the tension behind the curtains grew. A group of contestants who had mocked her earlier whispered among themselves, debating whether her voice was truly as good as it seemed, or if the judges were only reacting out of sympathy. Some felt threatened, while others simply couldn't accept that someone so ordinary-looking could outshine their polished performances. But beyond the stage politics, another conflict stirred quietly within the woman herself. She knew that singing this way meant opening up wounds she had carried for years. Every note reminded her of struggles she had endured, of times when her voice had been silenced by doubt and circumstance. Standing there under the bright lights, she wasn't just singing for the judges. She was singing against every voice that had told her she wasn't good enough. The audition hall listened closely, waiting to see if she could sustain that power, or if the weight of her own story would finally overwhelm her. Her voice soared higher, reaching notes that seemed impossible for someone with no formal training. The room felt charged, every sound echoing with raw intensity. Contestants who had once been whispering now sat still, their faces a mix of awe and unease. It wasn't just a performance anymore. It felt like a declaration, a reminder that true talent doesn't always arrive dressed in glitter and confidence. One judge leaned forward, elbows on the table, clearly caught between disbelief and admiration. Another tapped his pen nervously, as though unsure how to process what was unfolding before him. The third judge, known for being the harshest critic, didn't blink once, her eyes narrowing as if searching for a flush she couldn't find. The tension between them was almost visible, as though they knew this audition was about to change the tone of the entire competition. Backstage, the other singers tried to mask their emotions. Some clenched their fists, others looked away, unwilling to admit they might have underestimated her. One contestant, who had trained for years with the best coaches, whispered bitterly, "She can't keep this up." Yet, with every passing second, the woman only grew stronger, her voice carrying an authenticity that no training could fake. And within her, a storm raged. Each lyric pulled at memories she had buried, losses, sacrifices, and the countless times she had been told her dreams didn't matter. Her heart pounded as the final part of her song approached, the moment that would either prove she belonged or confirm everyone's doubts. The hall seemed to hold its breath. Even the judges stopped writing, waiting for that last stretch of notes. The simple woman who had walked in unnoticed now stood at the center of every gaze, building toward a finale that no one could look away from. Just as the final note hovered in the air, a ripple of surprise spread through the audience. Instead of ending cleanly, her voice faltered for the briefest second, like a flame caught in the wind. It wasn't enough to ruin the performance, but it was enough to spark whispers. The judges exchanged quick glances, their pens suddenly back in motion. The contestants backstage leaned forward, sensing an opening, hoping that maybe this remarkable voice wasn't as untouchable as it first seemed. The simple woman's hands tightened around the microphone. Inside, panic surged. She knew that moment of weakness could cost her everything. But what no one else knew was that she wasn't only battling nerves. She had entered this audition carrying a secret. Her voice had been strained for weeks, and doctors had warned her to rest. She had ignored their advice, determined not to let her one chance slip away. Now, standing in front of the judges, she felt the weight of that choice pressing harder than ever. The tension deepened as one of the judges leaned back and whispered to another, their expressions unreadable. Was this a sign of vulnerability, or was it proof that her raw, unpolished gift came at too high a price? The audience couldn't tell, and that uncertainty only made the moment more electrifying. Meanwhile, backstage rivalry turned sharper. Some contestants quietly cheered her stumble, their envy bubbling into hope. Others, though, felt torn, admiration battling with their own fear of being overshadowed. And on stage, the woman steadied herself, ready to push through the final stretch. Every breath she drew now came with risk, but also with the possibility of greatness. The hall braced for what would happen next, caught between doubt and anticipation as the real test of her strength began. With the spotlight burning down on her, she closed her eyes and summoned everything she had left. The room was silent, every ear waiting to hear whether she would rise or fall. Then, with a deep breath, her voice soared again, stronger than before, layered with a kind of power that could only come from pure determination. The falter from moments earlier was forgotten as she delivered a finale so breathtaking that the entire hall erupted into applause before the last note even faded. The judges were on their feet, clapping in unison. The same contestants who had mocked her now looked stunned, their earlier arrogance completely shattered. Some clapped politely, others hung their heads, but everyone knew the truth. She had turned the audition into a moment they would never forget. For the first time in the competition, the judges exchanged smiles, nodding as if in agreement that they had just witnessed something extraordinary. Tears welled in her eyes as she lowered the microphone, overwhelmed by the standing ovation. It wasn't just about the song, it was about proving to herself, and to everyone who doubted her, that she belonged here. She had fought through fear, judgment, and even her own body's limits to show her gift to the world. But just as the applause began to settle, the unexpected twist arrived. The harshest judge, the one who had stayed quiet the entire time, raised her hand and asked the room to sit down. With a steady gaze fixed on the woman, she said, "That was remarkable, but I need to know something. Was that your best? Or are you still holding back?" The hall fell into silence again. The woman froze, caught between triumph and the challenge now hanging in the air. The audience leaned forward, realizing that what seemed like the end might only be the beginning of something even greater. The room held its breath as the woman looked at the toughest judge, unsure how to respond. Her heart still raced from the performance, but she realized the question wasn't meant to tear her down. It was meant to test her courage. She smiled softly, steadied her voice, and replied, "What you heard was me giving everything I have, and if I'm given the chance, I'll keep giving more." That quiet honesty earned a wave of applause, this time not just for her singing, but for her strength. The judges exchanged quick glances, and then the unexpected happened. The harshest judge, the one who had questioned her, gave the smallest nod of approval. "Then you've proven yourself," she said. "Welcome to the next round." The room erupted, and even the contestants backstage couldn't deny the moment was deserved. The same people who had laughed at her earlier now looked at her with respect, some even clapping louder than the rest. As she walked off stage, tears filled her eyes, not from weakness, but from relief. She had carried the weight of being overlooked her entire life, and now she had finally stepped into the light. The whispers, the judgment, the doubts, they had all been silenced by one undeniable truth. Talent and heart will always shine through. In the days that followed, her audition became the talk of the competition. Viewers shared her story, inspired by how a simple woman with no glamour or training had stunned an entire hall with just one voice. She didn't just earn a place in the next round. She earned the reminder that dreams don't have an expiration date. Her journey was far from over, but in that single audition, she had already won something greater than the stage: the respect of everyone who witnessed her courage.